Andre, you said.
We'll call to order the Tree Advisory Commissioners meeting. It's 4 p.m. on Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. And we'll go around the room, the council room, and ask for a roll call. So welcome, everyone.
Joe Stadheim, city engineer.
Miriam Hoffman.
Lee Knopf.
Greg Dearson.
Tom Romaine.
Joey Schugel, Park and Rec Director.
Jeff Huffman, Public Works Superintendent.
Donita Trebish, Administrative Assistant.
First on our list is to seek approval of the agenda today.
I so move.
Got a motion, seeking a second?
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the agenda for May 2nd, 2024. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. The agenda is approved. Now I'll seek approval of the minutes from March 7th, 2024. And you can see those minutes on the link as well.
I so move.
Motion to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second to accept the March minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Then we'll move to old business under 5.1, Joe Stadheim with city reimbursement programs and budget update.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and commission members. We've received to date about 37 reimbursement requests, so that's 37 trees, and all of them have been for EAB removals. So total cost of those removals are just over $16,000 worth, and the reimbursement amounts is $2,525. So working that through the allocated budget of $12,800, the unused balance is $10,275, just with the expenses of the reimbursements to date on the EAB removals.
And Chair and Commissioners, I will add there are two expenses that did not hit this report that are also, that we've also paid on. One would be the home show for $300. Keep in mind that it was a discount this year. Really, it would be $350 or $360 for next year, unless they change pricing that way. And the other cost was for the printing of the flyers, and those together came in a little over $1,150, so that aren't showing in the expense line item.
Okay, thank you, Joy.
Yep.
Any other questions on that report or for Joe? Okay. 5.2, the PUC update. Derek's not here. There's no new update. 5.3, Park and Rec Department update. Joey?
Yes, thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Park and Rec Department has been busy with some tree removals and contracting some services for some tree plantings. This spring, we have been able to remove 8 ash trees from North Park on the north side of the New Ulm north side of the park along that access road. There were also 8 poplar trees out there that have been dead for years that were removed at that time as well. They're kind of in an area that don't serve the park users for shade or any viewing of baseball. So at this point, we didn't plan on replacing in those locations. We've also removed 12 ash trees from the community center. A lot of those were on the medians of the parking lot, or the islands of the parking lot there. And those are heavily infested and came down. And then we planted 18 trees up at Nels Park, variety of plantings there. Those were done as we did remove around 18 in the winter this year. We were able to remove those, and there are more ash trees in that park, so we do know we will be removing more ash trees in the future up there. But over the last few years, we've had 38 trees planted in that park, so that are fairly young trees. And then we celebrated Arbor Day last week and planted 2 new trees at Harmon Park, and our new after-school program called Herbie's Hangout. The kids were able to help plant those trees and have an educational program around that, and kids really had a great time, and we were able to add a couple new trees to Harmon Park. Any questions on that report?
No, thanks. A lot of activity in an early spring. And we might be, well, we might not have to do as much watering and as much nursing on some of these as we've had to in previous summers. So that'd be all right too. 5.4, if there's no other questions for Joey, 5.4 Public Works update. Jeff?
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Right now, we've cut out 48 stumps and filled them, and we got some more to go for this spring. But when our main projects get going again, we'll probably quit stump cutting for this spring, and then we'll start again in fall. But right now, we've cut out 48 and filled them, and we got a few more to go yet. And then we planted 14 new trees at the cemetery.
Okay.
That's all I got. Thank you.
On those 14 new, is that a similar variety to what we would have in nails?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Any questions on 5.4? On the 5.5 private tree services, Tony is not here today. We'll assume he's busy with May weather. And then 5.6 Emerald Ash Borer update, EAB update. Joe, again?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, within your packets today is the flyer that was developed, kind of sharing EAB information. That was posted to the city website and social media accounts, and for the public to view and hopefully learn a little bit more about what to look for and things of that nature. Also included is an updated EAB infestation map as well for your consideration. So I believe that's the most current version. It's dated February 9th of this year. So I guess if you have any questions on those, be happy to try to answer them.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners as well, I'll add on that educational flyer that went out. That was due to a lot of activity around the questions on who's responsible for what throughout the community, and this did get a lot of response. So, this commission has talked about that in the past on how we can get that education out there on what private owners are options they have and what's out there for them. As we know, a lot of people are dealing with EAB in our community and how to remove that and what options are there for them. So that's kind of where that one came from.
Okay. Yeah, and I see that circles back to even Dutch elm disease on that flyer.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's a lot of that around, but I think in some of the riverside woods, we still see those elms. That map is also really telling.
It's
Yeah.
not great.
Fargo and Duluth, so Moorhead and Duluth and St. Cloud. So Rochester's not considered generally infested, but I looked around when I was there, and it's the same signs that we see in town are there for sure. So. I guess that goes with the question of the DNR grants. I'm sure are still around and they'll cycle through.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people vying for them.
Yep, yeah, they're going to be very competitive, I'm guessing, for the next 3 to 5 years at minimum. And, yeah, certainly, once we get notification that the grants are open, we will be applying and hoping for good results.
Okay, thank you for the update, especially the
I have a
website.
question.
Question?
As more ash trees are infested and die on private property in the city, those tops and the trees themselves are becoming a safety hazard. Who is responsible? Is the tree inspector responsible for identifying those trees that need to be removed?
You know, we, Mr. Chair, Commission members, we don't necessarily do any inspections on private property. That's be up to the individual
might
property
need-
owner.
I don't have the disease tree ordinance memorized, but I think there's language in there that says that, private property owners have to deal with the trees on
Right.
their own property.
Yep.
And that can be a responsibility of the tree inspector to identify those.
Well, yeah, we don't have a city forester that, we have a.
Well, we do
person-
not have a city forester, but we're supposed to have a tree inspector, and who is that person?
Well, what I was trying to get at is we have Jeff Anderson up in my office who takes care of kind of the permitting and things like that. But as far as inspecting boulevard trees, that's kind of, we're not going into private property to inspect private trees. That's up to the private property owners, If we have boulevard trees that are in poor condition, that's when we send out notices and things of that nature. But, we're not necessarily going inspecting backyards or anything like that, so.
We did have that question at the home show, what's that process ultimately is the homeowner or neighbors have to discuss it and take a look at it.
Yeah, and
Jeff
if,
Anderson's available.
yeah, if a homeowner has a question and invites us onto their property to look at a tree, we'll certainly do that, but we're not intruding into people's backyards or to look at trees, so.
I can't even.
Okay. What's the estimate yet of how many are on boulevards in town? I remember the number was still in the.
Yeah, it's still
over
pretty
1,000.
high. I don't know off top of my head what that number is, but I don't think we were quite to half with our efforts in the boulevard yet. But I can, have that information for the next meeting.
But the movement is such that now it's definitely on the northern side of town and
Right, yeah.
both
it's-
sides of Broadway.
Yep, correct.
Any other questions about EAB for Joe? Then we'll go to 5.7, and this is a Buckthorn update. Jordy Veit's here today to discuss the Cover It Up program he's been working on.
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So we're just kind of starting the 2024 data collection season. Probably first next week before I do my first data collection because with the weather the last couple weeks. And there have been several changes. So I'll just kind of go through a few things with that, just to kind of get everybody up to date. Just as a reminder, this has been going on for several years. Phase 1 was completed before we started anything down here. That was mainly Twin Cities metro area. Some of the results are starting to come out with that, so showing that dense revegetation does have an effect by reducing light. It's reducing the buckthorn recolonization. That was completed in 2019. Phase 2, which we started in New Ulm several years ago, that ended last year. That included 600 plots across the state. So we'll probably start to see maybe later this year some of the data come out from that project with it. And then we are currently in Phase 3. We're just looking at some different data. I will also look at the data that we have done in the past as well, again this year, even though that will not get turned in as part of the project this year. So the new data collection process is going to take place the first 2 weeks of every month, May through September, so we're going for 5 times. To help them keep track of the data, we will also be using iNaturalist for taking pictures and reporting. Is what's going to happen is we're going to be recording and doing an inventory of all the flowering plant species that are in the plots that we have set up. So measuring what those are, how many species we have, and then we're going to be doing an estimate on kind of the area they take up with that. So each square will get its own data, and then we'll have a running list of that for the whole site. And then that'll be turned into U of M every month with what we have with that. So this is, they're kind of bringing in pollinators as well with this. So that's kind of why we're specifically looking at the flowers. I'll probably do like I've done in the past. I don't think I did much last year with it because it was kind of the same species, but if I find other species down there, I'll put that in my information as well, even if it's not something they're directly looking at, just to kind of give you an overview. So this is just the data sheets we'll be using every month. So just identifying the flowering species, just a description to help us keep track, and then the number of circles is just our estimate of kind of the flower size and how many flowers we're finding down in those plots with that. And then just the all species surveyed across all 6 plots with that. So that'll be going on every month with that. And like I said, my current plan is still to collect the data I have been the last several years at the late summer, early fall. So you can kind of take a look at that one last time, even though that will not get submitted since this is the last year with that. Off to an earlier start than last year, so just kind of an overview. There's not much going on, but definitely some green up taking place already. So I was just kind of sharing a few pictures with you on that, and I'm sure I'll have more as we start our data collection as well. Any questions? And then I will, while you're thinking, just in case anybody's interested, and you're talking about kind of community education type thing, I will be doing a community ed class in June. That looks like it will be a go. There's already people signed up. So I will also kind of talk about your discussion with emerald ash borer and other invasives in and around New Ulm. So just kind of as a note for anybody. So
Will you have these sites as part of site visit for that? Is that part of?
I wasn't going to directly talk about this too much, but yeah, I probably will in case there are questions. Because my plan is to kind of show some maps and talk about some of the common invasives in New Ulm, identification of those, and then kind of opening it up to discussion where whatever people are most interested in and questions. So.
Any questions for Jordy? Any plan for after? Have they given a hint for any plan to follow up after this year?
No, I'm guessing. I don't know. They haven't really said anything, so I'm sure this will be the end of their part with what they're funded. So, I mean, there is the possibility if there's interest, we can talk as it gets closer to and see, if there's just something kind of we decide to do on our own type thing without running through that program. That's another possibility maybe too, so.
Your first picture is between the bike trail and?
Yeah, yep, so that would be, the building you see would be kind of the back corner of Ridgeway, per se, so. Yep. There's a couple a little bit more closer, but there's still not much to see yet at this point. So I have a funny with my May observations, there will not be much for flowers, but we'll see, so.
Okay. Thank you, Jordy. Next on the agenda is 5.8 utility billing information inserts.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, as you'll see, we just touched on this a little bit earlier, but the cost of the insert for the home show was, and the utility billing was $857.63. At our last meeting, we discussed doing one insert. In the past, we've done two just due to the cost, so. And again, that was black and white. We did not do color. Or one side was color. So it might feed into our conversation here under new
Sure.
business.
Since we've utilized our entire budget for our papers this year. Then we'll go 5.9, the Big Tree Contest. This is just informational. We've had one submission to date.
And yes, and Mr. Chair and Commissioners, since this packet has come out, we've had 3 additional submissions, which is nice to see. So up to 4 now.
July 29 is the submission date. And we'll discuss that in the July meeting, the identification or the follow-up for those, so. In a week or two, you might get more when they're easier to identify. Any questions on those? Then we'll proceed to new business and the 2025 budget request.
Chair and Commissioners, this is the appropriate time of year for us to start to look at a budget request for 2025. As in your packet, you would see the budget request that was submitted last year for this year's budget. So in looking at some of our numbers here, I wanted to open up, well, first off, we generally in the past have looked at diseased and boulevard tree program, contractual services, the home show, printing costs, and then tree pest reduction efforts. Last year, our request was $7,000. As most of you know, we did increase that as we got into the year. We did not have any carryover from 2023 to 2024, and we were able to bump that up a little bit as we know there was a great need for the reimbursement program. So now would be an appropriate time to discuss some recommendations for next year's budget.
Should we work from the total side, or should we work from first the diseased and boulevard tree program, get an estimate or a suggestion there before we work towards the total amount? Commissioners, any preference?
Mm-mm.
You want some suggestions?
Sure.
If we're going to use that same format in the letter before us, I would suggest diseased and boulevard tree programs should be at least $10,000. Contractual services, $1,000. Home show, $900. I mean, what was our bill for the home show?
Well, our bill this year was $300.
Okay,
but however, that'll go up to, depending if they increase their pricing or not, but we would be the non-chamber member rate. We've been paying the chamber member rate, so it would go up to $350.
Okay, $350. Printing and pamphlets, if we're going to stick with With 2 inserts, we're probably going, I would suggest we go to $1,400. And tree pest reduction efforts would be okay at 800. I don't know what the total is for that, though.
Do we wish to keep doing 2 printing and pamphlets a year? How difficult is the electronic
The
version?
last one was, what, $860 approximately?
And that was one insert.
One, for
Yes.
one, yes.
Yes. So, at one of our previous meetings, we did discuss some more free options to get it out. Digital type of, marketing, whether it's putting within the Park and Rec, activity report that hits the New Ulm Journal weekly or when there's activity, or if we could help promote on social media pages and city website, to offset maybe some of those costs if this commission does not wish to do 2 printouts a year.
We've got to increase that budget at least either way, but knowing that we can shift from paper to some of those other means would be.
I don't think that we're going to see lesser demand for the diseased and boulevard tree programs this year.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mr. Chair? Mr. Romaine?
Yeah, my hearing is not very good, so
No, just, what was the question?
I'm asking whether or not you think we're over the hump on Emerald Ash Borer. I don't think so either.
No, I would anticipate.
I don't see us, last year, we've already seen about $2,600 in requests for planting trees, and it really haven't begun to be the planting season and removal season.
Mr. Chair and Commission members, so we've kind of kept a running total of what we've encountered for actual costs. So in 2023, the community spent about $43,000 on removal and new planting efforts. Average removal cost per tree is about, during the last year and a half, is about $450 on average for a EAB removal. So not sure, if the commission wishes to up their request for the reimbursement amounts, or for the total reimbursement amount, if at that time you want to look at increasing the reimbursement percentage as well, that could be something the commission can consider as well, because right now it's at 50 and 75 for private yard versus a boulevard reimbursement. So, any additional funds into that program, I think, will get used up. Especially, I don't see us being done with this for another 3 to 5 years, most likely. So by the time it's made its way through the community.
I think since we ended last year by getting that budget moved up to 10,000, I think that's a good benchmark good suggestion from Tom on that number. And then moving the other items up, the home show item up, and printing and pamphlets up to at least 1,000 would be appropriate. And somebody's going to have to check my math on that now. Sorry.
I just
Are you
put
keeping
those
track?
out there as
13,550.
a discussion item, so.
$13,550 would be the sum of those. And that's printing and pamphlets up to 1,000 or at 1,400?
1,400.
Okay. So that would be our mid-year budget request for 2025 then.
Okay.
13,550.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, as Mr. Stadheim kind of pointed out too, is some of the feedback we do receive is the reimbursement amounts aren't high enough. Do we want to address that at this time as well? It would, or, since the program started, continuing going with where we're at.
The other option on that would be see what we're allocated or what the commission is allocated by the city council, and then you can make, consider making reimbursement changes once we know the budget amount you're working with too. So a couple of different options for consideration.
That might make more sense. Wait to see what we got.
But we
Yes.
know that tree removal cost has gone up, and then replacement trees have gone up.
Yep.
There's no denying that portion of it. So that's already been the last 2 years that's jumped up significantly. So maybe that is in our summer meeting. We'll see where that we'll see what that rate is if half of our budget's gone by then. I think we're going to have as trees don't come out of this winter, we're going to see a lot more impact as well. So for now, I think it's leave them as they are, but maybe address it for the upcoming year.
Sure. And then, Mr. Chair, if that is the amount this commission would like to go with, then we'd be looking for a motion on that. And again, a good point from Mr. Stadheim too, that this is a request, so this is not a set in stone amount. Has to be presented and approved through city council.
Okay. I'll seek a motion from the commissioners then to request $13,550 for the 2025 budget.
I would make that motion.
Motion from Mr. Romaine. Any second?
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll call that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. So we'll ask that our budget next year be $13,550, and we can still respond with that like we did last year. We ended up increasing that disease and boulevard tree program allocation. And we'll have a good sense of that in 2 more months, really. Because we got a lot of questions at the home show, I'm sure you do, and a lot of this summer, I'm going to have to do something this summer kind of statements. So, any other new business related to city trees or park and rec trees? Probably going to have to do more mowing this year than last year, but every year is different in that way. The Herman Heights Park, the cherry trees blossomed last week, and they're still in blossom. So that's really kind of a neat look, and to have that in early May, it's a bright spot. That park is really green right now. That looks really in good shape. So as do the others. So thanks for that work. Last few years that have been involved in those, and they, like I said, they're make town look good. And so the date of our next meeting is a unique date because of the 4th of July. So we're Wednesday, July 10, 2024 at 4 p.m. here in the chambers. Please email agenda items to Park and Rec, to Danita, a week prior. With no further business, I declare the meeting adjourned.